teams do, where their solo lane Dwurst is an aggressive player, like your solo lane has to be, but he'll come back and peel, right? You sort of have your bouncer style solo laners, which are the press W, mystical mail, walk out of here, and then you have your secondary support type solo laners, which are looking more for the peel, and that's Dwurst in my eyes. I like that he's Guardian player, right? And the Sun Wukong when he brings up the Warriors. Those are gods that can go to the back line, but also come back and respond to the team. So I think next time in picks and bans, I want to see a change there, because I agree with you. I don't think that's necessarily his playstyle.
Chulainn just felt weird. I almost feel, and I don't say that about that god often. It just felt weird, and I said it. The Serket was a great pick against Chulainn. It's some very undermined. HP 5 in this game isn't something that you look as a huge stat. Chulainn abuses that stat big time, and when he transforms, he also gets that shield that he gets. I think that would have been way better in the jungle. I could be wrong about it. Plus, it wouldn't have showed their cards as much.
That's a big deal.
They showed the enemy team their cards a little bit, and I think it came back to bite them.
Well, SB played around it pretty well there, considering that they picked the Serket for Kaeydan, and they actually camped Dwurst's lane for a little bit. I don't think it really mattered what he played in that solo lane. The strategy from SB was to camp him.
Yeah. Well, Myflin trying to shake it off right there. Game number 1, certainly something that he and the squad want to forget about. Still going to ban out the Osiris, as they did in game number 1.
Unless you have a strat to go up against Ryan Jarman's Osiris, is always good to ban it out. And then SB right away with the Soul ban. I think that's the best first ban they can do. Serket this time has a second ban for Obey. It seems like they're already adapting. That's good. At least you know what went wrong. You don't know how to play up against it that well. One thing that I said to my team when Mollusk abused us, I think our Fafnir pick, when we picked Fafnir, was not the greatest pick against the Serket. You look at when Serket was getting countered heavily, you pick Geb. Geb has a shield that now whoever she's going on, no longer a factor. So that's good that they banned it away. If you don't have a comp or a strat to go up against it, ban it.
Makes perfect sense. Right now, the first pick, Athena. This one I'm going to go to Jelly. So Obey going to change things up and take the Athena away from Matt Koiz.
I still don't know where that Athena is going to go. You say Jelly, but do you expect this to go to Jelly here?
You want to know something? Dwurst played it a while ago, and I still feel like Athena has a huge role, especially you're solo main, and I loved you when you're playing still not in competitives. But Athena's one now that it's almost like a teleport, right? So you could start up a Gold Fury from solo lane and say, hey guys, I'm going to be there.
Bait out so many team fights. Yeah. Just put yourself out of position, almost on purpose, to bait out that rotation. Try to get in a 5-on-3 on the opposite side of the map.
Athena solo is one of my favorite. I'll call it an oddball selection. Guardians make their way. Athena's one of them that doesn't for some reason. She is very strong. However, Obey are a team that play closer to the meta than not. So I mean, I love it. But do you think Dwurst loves it?
I think it probably is going to go to Jelly. That's without a doubt. That being said, Kiki ran it on the PC side very well, and I think it is something that she has extremely good clear. You don't need to max out your taunt right away. You can get only a point into it, just that when you do show up to the fight, you still have some sort of CC. I think right now it could be considered a flex against some teams. You guys may be right more than I am about it. You watch from an analytical standpoint, which is a good thing. When you're seeing the game from a top-down, it's a lot better to watch.
I'll tell you right now, especially considering the conversation we had about the Chulainn last game in game number 1, talking about a character that can go backline and still provide peel for your team, that's Athena solo to me. I want Dwurst. If it's not his god pool, I want him to learn it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Now still picking the Chulainn after, avoiding it in the first pick. The Athena is a good selection. They're also taking it away from the hands of Matt Koiz. Is always a great idea. Chulainn yet again for Obey lines. It's a good idea here to balance this defensive peel with the Athena and the aggressive action with the Chulainn.
Please, Obey. Use Chulainn in the jungle.
Hopefully. The Medusa, however, coming through for Obey. Camera's on Zachsy. I'm not sure if that's where the pick is going.
That's true.
That can go. That's a flex, actually, because I know Delta Marine can run that. And you have the Athena, right? Athena, that is an old-school duo comp. Athena sets up Medusa perfectly. You can't, if beads are down, you're eating a Medusa ult.
That Hui might be in a little bit of trouble off of that one Athena taunt. You're going to be having to use those beads every single time. You cannot allow that Petrify to hit you.
Kaeydan gets his Thor, though.
Yeah.
Really, really big deal. Ryan and I had the opportunity to cast him playing the Thor last night, and
those walls, yeah. The walls were on point. Maybe not the ult sometimes, but his walls just sealing off Sylvanas more than half the time. Or there's a Rance Elevate. That was great. Yeah.
And when
that's
you're
the
playing against
beauty,
this team, I'm sorry, Totally, the wall is going to go great.
That's the beauty about Thor. Like, you don't even necessarily even have to hit your ult. All of his abilities is just so good in almost any given moment, between the Berserker Barrage, being up close and personal, with working with his passive. If you're maxing out the hammer instead, you know, which is double tapping from a distance, wait for somebody else to set you up potentially, and then just getting that global pressure. Even if you don't connect on it, the threat is still there.
I like the Sobek ban here. That is a flex ban as well. If you are convinced that Athena is in Dwurst's god pool, the Sobek is one of Jelly's favorites. It's one of Dwurst's favorites. It is a two-player ban here, so I like it.
That's the great dynamic that Obey has. It's very similar to my team, that a lot of the gods, at least Guardians, me and Wolves can flex a lot of times. They have that same, Dwurst and Jelly have very similar god pool, aside from the Jingten. Jingten was one of those ones that almost every time it's going to go to Dwurst. That was a great ban there, too.
I mean, this is the moment where ambiguity is so important in your draft. When you get to the second phase of bans, and the enemy's sitting there like, I don't know where any of these gods are going. You look at this Obey draft, Medusa can go to 2 players, Chulainn can go to 2 players, Athena can go to arguably 3 players, right? You're sitting there as SB, and you're like, what do we ban?
And now SB is kind of confused in the picks and bans as well with that AMC ban, considering that Medusa could be flex. We were talking about it before, how Delta Marine can pilot that goddess. AMC is another great god that you could put in the duo lane, and now you have great lane clear, both mid, in the duo, and you can maybe look to collapse around that duo lane jungle.
Whereas SB, much more predictable as to where these characters are going. We've seen Thor solo maybe 5 times in 5 years.
Yeah, no, they let you know what they're doing.
Yeah, Ho Yi can play mid, but they have a Raijin.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
you know where Ho Yi's going, you know where Raijin's going. Although Sanoshore did play Raijin jungle once, we won't talk about it. Thor's go to the jungle. Cabrakan, is this support Cabrakan for Matt Koiz?
No,
or
that's
solo
that's Nickwood. And that being said, they have a great wall comp now, right? They have Thor that can wall you in, messes with Medusa, messes with Chulainn, messes with Athena. Now you have Cabrakan's ultimate that's just not fun to get out of.
Yeah, a lot of geometry on the side of SB so far. Obey needs to round out their composition. We'll finally figure out where everybody's going.
I don't know if they'll do this combo, but this is something very interesting, a very interesting dynamic. Cabrakan and Ho Yi, if they time that perfectly, you can get almost a triple ricochet like that.
Yeah.
So if they're on point with that, that'll be something to watch.
Sun Wukong comes out, and Chronos comes out.
Okay.
So Sun Wukong, I think, tells us that we're going to see Sun Wukong in the solo lane.
I know that Air Cougar used to love Chronos
Yes.
in the duo lane every single time. Now the question is, does Zachsy like the Chronos?
I was about to
as
say,
well?
that's Zachsy's first Diamond God. That's 100% going to them.
Yep.
And Tom was actually right. Delta Marine's now for sure taking that Medusa. And it actually rounds out their comp because you have Athena going all over the place, right? Like, that's your support now. They've made that known because Sun Wukong was picked. So Athena being all over the map. You have Athena that can complement your Medusa. Chronos can now go aggressive with his 2-3 combo. Terra is definitely going to support role, so yeah, that's going to Nick with the Cabrakan. This is rounded out at both comps. This is awesome.
So I love the execution in the picks and bans from Obey. Like I said, ambiguity so very important because you force the opposition to sort of, play with their bans. SB responded fantastically though with the AMC ban and the Sobek ban, both of which are, well, they're going to hit both positions. So really strong. Love this time around. I think Obey comes through a little bit stronger. How about you?
If this game goes to late game, I give it to Obey 100%. If you look at pressure, as far as pressure goes, SB wins that battle. If we're making predictions already,
Sure.
I would have to go with Obey's lineup this time.
I'm actually going to have to split this decision with you and go SB's direction. I like the global presence. Kaeydan has his Thor. We're seeing Terra global presence as well. I think the team fights are very well rounded for Strictly Business.
I like Obey's draft personally. I'm very excited. I want to see that Chronos, and I want to see the game. Aggro, Taco, make it happen.
Thank you very much, F. It's SB and Obey, Game 2. SB win Game 1 pretty easily, and it was really centered around that Athena pick for us, Taco, and now it's Obey's turn to give it a run.
This is going to be a really difficult task, though, because if that's Chronos in the duo lane, like we were just discussing, Zachsy's going to have a really hard time staying alive. Hu Yi pressure is absolutely insane when you're trying to deal with it as a Chronos. You don't have a large health pool. You don't have a whole lot of survivability until level 5. And Hu Yi, if there's one thing he loves to do, it's play up on you.
And he's got plenty of walls to bounce off of here as well, between the Thor and the Cabrakan, Terra as well. But if he gets double bounced off of Terra Monolith, then I can just take off the headset and move on, because this is a really good opportunity for Fatal Ghost to have as good of a game as he had in Game 1. I mean, my man killed it in Game 1, was a big part of why Strictly Business are looking good to punch their ticket to Worlds. Love the fact that SB just went right back to him with the same pick.
Obey are not trying to leave it up to chance, though. They don't want to have to rely on another team to be their saving grace for Worlds.
Yeah.
If they want to close it out here, this is the time to do so. And I think that Chronos pick is definitely the risk versus reward that Obey is looking for.
Chulainn likely to be in the jungle here for Myflin, though we have seen him run Wukong in the jungle before. How do you like this Wukong versus Cabrakan matchup in the solo lane?
I think that I would have to favor the Cabrakan purely because of the fact that he does have those tremors and some Wukong.
Yeah.
If he wants to prevent that wave clear, he needs to invest into the Tiger Stun typically, and that's not usually the aggression that you want to take, because then you leave yourself open to getting counter stunned by the Cabrakan.
And the Raijin in the mid lane this time for oBoronic, who had such a good performance on the Zeus. A little surprised to see SB prioritize it that early on. Were you surprised by that as well?
I wasn't too shocked, because I believe that they really just wanted to strip that Raijin away from Delta Marine. Even though it didn't seem as though he had the best performance in Game 1, the fact is, Strictly Business don't have the same sort of dive composition that they did in the previous match. So
Sure.
Delta would have had a lot more flexibility if he were able to pilot a Raijin selection here. So I love the choice to take that away from him. And if that is Medusa in the mid lane, which, again, I'm kind of just expecting, because that's what you would want when you have an Athena on your side.
Exactly. The old Athena-Medusa combo. It's been around since Medusa was released, basically. The Athena taunt makes you face one direction. It's towards the Athena, and Medusa ult does more damage and stuns whenever you're facing towards her, and it can work very well. Plus, we expect that Medusa to be in the mid lane because it's Zachsy in the dual lane for Obey. Zach really made his name for himself on this Chronos when he came into the league. Why aren't we seeing as much Chronos these days, and do you think it can work into this matchup?
Chronos just gets pressured very easily, and I can only imagine how difficult it is right now, since hunters are being left alone typically in that dual lane to survive. And it is Delta Marine on this Medusa, rightfully so, I should say, because if Jelly's going to be your Athena support, those two are going to be working together so often that it's just better to have that Petrify taunt combination together.
A lot of CC on the side of Obey Alliance, and Kaeydan needs to be wary about that. Everything Thor does, he wants to do over a little bit of time. Berserker's Barrage, obviously bad when it gets interrupted. Plus that hammer toss, I mean, being stunned out in the middle of that hammer throw and not being able to use that for mobility is one of the banes of Thor's existence. So needs to be wary of where that taunt is and where that stop time is coming from Zachsy at all times. But this time around for Obey, it's two pressure warriors on the right side of the map, just kind of like it was in game number 1, but in game 1 they started in the jungle. This time around, it's immediately going to the wave.
I'm torn on how to feel about this Terra pick, though. Terra is a selection that we don't see happening all that often. It's really only been Koiz that likes bringing this one out still, and can kind of still have the same sort of impact as an Athena, considering the global presence like they talked about on the desk. It's just it being a slow as opposed to a root now could affect a lot as far as setup is concerned.
It's true. We have seen Terra a couple times since that nerf. They removed the root on the 3-1 combo, but she definitely feels much less impactful with the chain CC, though you can never feel unimpactful when you've got Terra's Blessing. I mean, one of the best ultimates in the game, without a doubt, is Fatal Ghost. Gonna jump over. Good damage onto Koiz from Zachsy, and that's Jelly and the dual lane. Just trying to prioritize the poke instead of going for this purple buff invade.
And that was perfect for Obey Alliance to actually establish that sort of pressure, because since they're already level 2, speaking of which, the oBoronic has started making this rotation. This could be very dangerous now for Zachsy.
Zachsy has to use the Purification Beads, and he's in trouble right away. Good taunt from Jelly to keep Strictly Business off of the Hunter. Sprint used as well, so both relics expended on the right-hand side, though Koiz did have to use the shell of his own, but definitely a win for SB. Not only do they get relic, but they confirm both left side buffs. That's the power of having your mid rotate over. Delta Marine, he was on the right side mid Harpies, not able to come in and support the squad.
And what originally seemed like a favorable situation for Obey has now been handled by SB. Fatal goes pretty much back in control of this dual lane.
And that's what you want against this Chronos, because no one's going to have control of him late game. It's very difficult to lock him down, though. Cabrakan, one of the characters that can do it. We saw Chaotic Purpose play this pick in the jungle and really make life difficult for the backline of the opposition. I really do love this Cabrakan pickup, but has to be concerned as Jelly's going to get caught out on the left-hand side, and Matt Koiz gets first blood for Strictly Business.
And that's the danger of a high-pressure duo lane. Fatal Ghost and Matt Koiz just making it happen with that first blood. You were touching on Cabrakan being the guy to try and handle this Chronos, but if Fatal Ghost is permitted this kind of a lead early on, he might be able to just do it himself.
I mean, he did it last game for sure, and didn't even get off to a huge lead necessarily in that game. Just seemed to get a lot of last hits in the team fights, and not for any fault of his own. I mean, he was doing a lot of the damage on top of that, as well as Matt Koiz still lurking. Zachsy going to spot it out. Knows that Matt Koiz likes to spend a lot more time in this dual lane than most other supports. Now Jelly has kind of said, all right, Zach, now you get solo farm after I fed your lane a little bit. I'm going to head towards the mid lane and try and support Delta Marine, which is really why we saw this Medusa pick in the first place, is because you want Jelly around with that Athena taunt.
That's always one of the worst feelings as a support player. Speaking of which, Delta Marine with that cheeky little stop on OBoronic's back. Important because the wave's actually pushing in right now.
But Kaeydan's looking for the fire elementals. He got the minis, but Dwurst and Jelly going to be able to get the big one alongside Delta Marine. Oboronic last game went for the Warlock Sash Rush, as did Delta Marine, but this time around Oboronic going for the Sand of Time and the Bumba's Mask. Do you like this switch up out of SB's mid lane?
I prefer the switch up because the Sands of Time, that cooldown reduction, plus a little bit of the MP5 regen is going to be very important as far as what Oboronic is trying to accomplish. But I'd imagine it just be spamming of his abilities.
Jelly's still only level 4, has not been able to hit that level 5 mark after getting first blooded by Matt Koiz. Taunt onto Matt Koiz as Myflin jumps forward, just trying to put some poke onto SB's mid laner as Oracle's contested by both hunters. Fatal Ghost taking a good amount of damage, but it will allow him to secure at least one of those two oracles.
But that's, again, one of Chronos' downfalls in the early game. Those autos, unless you're in that fourth quadrant, not really an issue to handle. But Fatal Ghost, if he's able to connect a couple of his own, although his red buff has worn off in comparison to Zachsy.
Zachsy has the purple buff to go up and farm as well as soon as possible, but with Matt Koiz and Fatal Ghost both pushing and healthy on the left-hand side, they may decide to play aggressive, though their own buffs are coming up on that left part of the map, and that's exactly where they're heading. Oboronic had backed and already gotten boots too, and now it's Delta Marine's turn to head back to base. pbnjellly finally hitting level 5 is going to be able to rotate around the map quickly should that be necessary, as he picks up the Traveler's boots, and then Delta Marine finishes off some Warrior Tabi on that Medusa. So looking for a little bit more ability damage with the Warrior Tabi, the extra 20 power, not really worried about the extra attack speed that the Ninja Tabi give you.
And Matt Koiz just trying to remind Zachsy that he's not free to back as he pleases. All these quick little back cancellations are really important when you consider the waves and where they're at. Zachsy trying to get back to base as soon as possible because he doesn't want to lose any farm.
Well, it looks like he'll be able to make it back. He got the full boots, and with that extra movement speed from Accelerate, not too difficult to find your way back to lane. As Fire Elementals, again, going to go Obey's way. Last time they were kind of split with Kaeydan and SB getting the small ones and Obey getting the big one. Well, this time Obey gets all of them, and is going to try and continue to keep Delta Marine ahead, who has not been under pressure so far this game at all. Neither has Oboronic on the other side, though, and he's finished off his penetration boots without much worry.
This is mostly going to be about Jelly and Delta Marine forcing out those actives early with their combination, and then Zachsy coming in with the follow-up afterwards. Myflin as well can also put out quite a lot of damage, but the concern is if this game does start to progress into the later stages, there really isn't all that much to try and handle this dual hunter combination, because you mentioned the Cabrakan maybe being able to handle it because of what we saw from Chaotic Purpose, but Ryan Jarman being a frontliner, probably going to be building a little bit more tank-oriented than damage-oriented.
It's a good point. Just thought that the Cabrakan ultimate is really good at locking down these characters like the Athena, as Kaeydan going to go up into the sky. Delta Marine might be in some trouble, but Jelly might be the focus as well. He gets stunned out, and there it is. The Taiko drums come up. That Petrify doesn't do a lot. Delta Marine actually has to dash away. He's very low. Turning around doesn't end up losing him his life, but Myflin doing big damage, but Jarman on the rotation, the CC chain. Myflin's Aegis buys him a moment, but not enough. Oboronic with another kill in the mid lane. Dwurst just far too late coming out of that solo lane.
And Delta Marine probably still feeling a little uncomfortable in this mid lane. If Kaeydan's able to connect that wall, then he'll be able to find the double tap, I believe, for a kill. Instead, Delta Marine going to fall back to the safety of his tower, and now it's actually Zachsy in a lot of danger. Fatal Ghost dropping the Suns down, but Zachsy does still have his ultimate available, so not really as trouble as you might think.
No, Zach used the purification beads there, even with Defender of Olympus coming down to support him. This is kind of the what you do to Athena, and Strictly Business clearly very comfortable with or against this character, which is no surprise because Matt Koiz has had Athena banned or picked against him a lot during his career as a support. You just kill her. You wait for her to engage, and then you focus down the Athena, especially in the early game, and SB did that beautifully in the mid lane.
I like the mentality for Obey here to take away that Athena from SB, particularly Matt Koiz, but I think what they also forgot about is that SB's draft last game had multiple forms of taunts to pull members in, so the focal point wasn't purely on the Athena.
Yeah, I don't mind the Athena selection. I'm a little bit concerned about how much, is this Medusa pick forced just because of the Athena? And as you mentioned, the last composition for SB, multiple taunts. Medusa would have been great in that sort of situation. Now you're really only looking at the Athena taunt. Now, Petrify is not an ability that needs setup. It's a massive cone, and if you stun someone, great, but you're really just looking for the AoE damage and the slow that comes along with it. You don't necessarily need any setup for it, but I just wonder if this Medusa pick is a little bit forced from Obey.
It might put a little bit more pressure onto Zachsy to really come up big here for his team, but if there's anybody who has the capability to do so, it's definitely going to be him. A lot of individual skill and talent from this Hunter player, so he's not going to be able to really start making those rotations until he finishes off what might be Book of the Dead, I believe.
Is that the type of build you'd like to see him go for, the Book of the Dead here instead of Bancroft's Talon?
Either or would work, but I do feel as though a lot of Chronos players tend to have favor towards Book of the Dead because of the health shield it can provide.
Zachsy going to get stunned, and Jelly's taunt a little bit off the mark, but so is Kaeydan's double tap, so no harm, no foul. Devourer's Gauntlets in a good spot so far for Fatal Ghost. He's already nearing 40 stacks on that item, and the slow nature of Chronos in the Hunter role is what allows him to forego the early boots, instead trying to stack it up. And look at the first item Matt Koiz purchases, a Magi's Blessing. And honestly, I love it because there is not a lot of CC from Obey, specifically from a range that's going to be able to pop that off.
There's like no one from Obey actually who can really afford to try and pop that Magi's Blessing without investing directly onto them, and if that's the case, if you're getting that close, you're probably not in a very good position.
Ryan Jarman gonna lock down Jelly, and he's dead right as he gets the taunt off, trying to get away, has the dash charge, but Kaeydan was ready for him. Kaeydan gets number 4 for Strictly Business. Myflin trying to get on the run, but no ultimate for him. oBoronic up and over the wall with a double tap, might do it with the Bluestone. Kaeydan with the double kill, 3 for him already, just 10 minutes in, and now Zachsy might be in a bad spot.
That's the one that hurts the most. Zachsy already being forced into the rewind, but it's going to rewind straight into 4 members of SB.
Not enough to get away. Fatal Ghost gets the kill with the Suns. A quick 6 kills for Strictly Business, only 10.5 minutes in, and that's a bad time to fall as their red buff is up. Delta Marine pushing forward. Kaeydan gonna teleport forward, trying to wall him off, but with the Defender of Olympus there, Delta Marine will stay safe. That's a lot of farm that Strictly Business gets to strip away from Obey.
And now it's going to be the Oracles that are the next focus point for SB. Just securing that vision for themselves in case they decide to go for it later on. Matt Koiz actually going to share a wave here with Fatal Ghost, but already that damage, just the pure raw damage from SB's composition, completely taken out Obey.
And again, it's Jelly who's the focus, and there's just not enough damage from the rest of the team to punish Strictly Business for doing it. I mean, Myflin does a little bit on the Chulainn, but without having a second item at that point in the game, he wasn't too much of a threat. Delta Marine just is still not done with his Devo gloves quite yet. He's only on Cursed Gauntlet. We're 11.5 minutes in. And on the other side, oBoronic has already finished off a Spear of the Magus.
And that's going to be even more difficult to handle because that boosted penetration in particular, just already so much damage for SB. It's actually kind of insane when you think about it. And Fatal Ghost, he just finished off those boots. He's already got the Devourer's Gauntlets online, which is perfect because he's against a magical ADC. And the best thing you could possibly build against magical ADC, lifesteal.
Myflin trying to put some pressure on the Ryan Jarman on the right-hand side, but he's level 12. Going to be difficult to do so now that he's finished off that Breastplate of Valor. Silver Talisman the pickup for Dwurst, and he's working on something else right afterwards. Probably going to be a Gladiator shield as Jelly eats a double tap in the mid lane. This grouping from oBe on the right-hand side has prompted Strictly Business to go for the Gold Fury. oBoronic has his ultimate available, as does Fatal Ghost. Suns are dropped, and Jelly's going to try and get in there, but it's already gone. Strictly Business get the Gold Fury. Delta Marine very low. Jelly's going to fall to the Thunder Crash from oBoronic, and Kaeydan on the mark. That forces him into a bad spot. Delta Marine going to fall. Double kill for oBoronic. SB loses their solo laner and their solo tower, but they get 2 kills and the Gold Fury, and it might be 3, Taco.
There's no way Zachsy makes it out of this one. Just too much damage from oBoronic and Kaeydan combined. Gold Fury plus 3 kills. No chance of oBe taking that T2 tower either. Way too tanky at only 13 minutes. And man, oh man, this is quickly becoming a very bad situation for oBe.
4K gold in the lead, going to be pushed a little bit higher if SB can get this solo or this duo lane tier 1 tower. And with only 1 archer left, don't think that's going to be the case as Dwurst shows up. Try and relieve some pressure on this duo lane side. Zachsy on this Chronos has been punished heavily so far. Twice now being caught out after a team fight in the wrong position. Even with Rewind, you just don't have enough survivability on the Chronos to be where Zachsy has been.
And for Zachsy, unfortunately, it's just a matter of not even really being able to assist his team. They're all just dying too quickly before he can even make his way over. In that particular circumstance, Jelly tries to peel SB off of the Phoenix, or off of the Gold Fury, by dashing in with the taunt, but with oBoronic having already used that Taiko drums, it just, Jelly can't face tank that.
Delta Marine finally now finishing off the Devo gauntlets and starting to stack those up. Only at 11 stacks. Fatal Ghost, he's all done with those. And oBoronic, as for his lane opponent in the mid lane, is finishing, getting close to finishing what's probably going to be a Gem of Isolation. I love the early pen on this Raijin, really relying on the slow chaining through the team fight, especially if that is going to be a gem for him. Though it could also be an Ethereal Staff, which wouldn't be a bad pickup. Zachsy now has Jelly in tow, trying to stay a little bit safer in this lane, but Jelly's had his struggles so far this game, 0-4 for the long-time oBe Alliance support.
And it's not even really Jelly being out of position or anything crazy like that. It's just been Jelly trying to make the plays for his team. Very similar to what we saw out of him in game number 1. He had some awesome Sobek setups early on, but this time around, SB just punishing him the second that he tries to commit.
Delta Marine loses the ward on the bottom right-hand side, and Myflin gets poked out a little bit. Now Delta Marine's going to get the ward, but he's going to lose about half his life for it. Does have the Devourer's Gauntlets, but not a lot of lifesteal on those quite yet, and so instead thinks about going back to base, but after realizing the portal deems the call, they're going to back up. Myflin has to use the Warcry. Defender of Olympus does good damage to Ryan Jarman, but he was just waiting for Jelly to come down so he could kill him. Fatal Ghost gonna put double digits on the board for Strictly Business as Kaeydan drops into the back line. Not a lot of damage from him. His hammer's already down. Myflin pushing him back, but no damage follow-up from Delta Marine, who's already low on mana. Dwurst trying to force back SB as Zachsy now trying to join the fight. He's coming around the backside looking for Kaeydan. He's gonna stun him out, but beads were good. Petrify not enough from Delta Marine, and Myflin is gonna get put down by oBoronic. oBoronic's gonna get a double kill on a Delta Marine, and now Dwurst has to go up into the somersault cloud. Not enough to bring anybody from Strictly Business down, and a 3-for-1 in total for Strictly Business, and it's all centered around bringing Jelly down first.
And look at Zachsy trying to find what he can in the mid lane, maybe looking for a tower there. Fatal Ghost not going to be able to connect with that Ricochet, and Zachsy will be able to fall back in time, very much like Dwurst, but Dwurst finding that kill onto Kaeydan still pretty impactful because it at least keeps SB off the Portal Demon just a little bit longer.
And Zachsy gets some farm there as well, getting the assist onto Kaeydan. Delta Marine in that fight just was not able to make an impact, and a lot of it goes back to just that fight over the war that you see on the bottom right-hand side. He gets poked out to about half HP and just can't really regen in time to be relevant in that fight. He got killed from an ultimate from oBoronic that wasn't even aimed at him initially, and then oBoronic sees a quarter health Medusa and says thank you very much and just plays a song and gets a double.
And again, that's just coming back to oBe. I love the idea with the Athena, but having that as your only form of setup doesn't make the combination of Athena Medusa the ultimate win-all.
Yeah, this Medusa just seems forced. Like, I know I already said it, but Delta Marine has got such a rich history of good picks on the Xbox in the mid lane. He's done so much. I mean, he's the reigning world's MVP, and this is just not a pick that I'm familiar with him playing. And you know that was a long time ago that I was playing against him, but haven't seen him really pull it out in the Pro League very much either. As Oracles do go Obey's way. Important timing because the Gold Fury is going to respawn within the next 10 seconds.
And that's always going to be a little sigh of relief there for Obey, so that way, if Strictly Business do try to commit onto that Gold Fury, at least Obey can maybe look to counteract it. But Ryan Jarman as well on this Cabrakan, and the rotations and the walls for the closeouts I think have been the most important part, because the spacing control has been really difficult for Obey to handle. All of these gods just dashes.
Exactly, and Jelly's probably going to be seeing Cabrakan ults in his nightmares already. I mean, he's 0-5, has not had a good game thus far. As Dwurst has actually been a bright spot for Obey Alliance, but does need to be careful because there's a couple people on the right side of the map, though. Strictly Business, instead of trying to gank the level 15 Wukong, instead head towards the Gold Fury. Remember, Obey does have Oracle Vision, so they know what's going on here on this left-hand side. Kaeydan now picked up a Magi's Blessing as well. Love this early pickup. He needs to be careful because Kaeydan's coming around the backside. Jelly is going to be able to dash out in time. Double tap, only going to hit the front half onto Zachsy. But Strictly Business, again, feel like they've got the positioning to go for gold.
And again, Kaeydan as well with a Magi's Blessing, meaning that even if Jelly is able to find a taunt, it's not going to do much of anything. And right now, it's actually going to be Myflin trying to start things off, using that Chulainn ultimate to create some space control. But instead, Ryan Jarman responds with his own ult.
Zachsy's going to need to get that rewind off, and he does get it off in time. Fatal Ghost, the ultimate, not nearly as impactful this time, and oBoronic is getting chased out on the backside, but Myflin needs some help as he gets Defender of Olympus right on time. Stun off the mark, but Jelly is the focus once more. Myflin gets taunted in by oBoronic, needs to fall, and Fatal Ghost will grab him right as oBoronic uses the Aegis Amulet. Zachsy is trying to escape. Good bait there by Kaeydan to bait out that ability. oBoronic gets another one. The Magi's Blessing stops the stun coming out of that stop time. Delta Marine has just resigned himself to the mid lane because he knows he can't get in there. Dwurst, they're waiting for him on the other side. What a body block by Koiz with the walls, but still not enough. Percussive Storm can't bring down Dwurst either, but SB don't need to get that kill. They'll just go back to the Gold Fury, get their second of the game, as well as Kaeydan grabbing that tier 1 duo tower.
And that's the split up that Strictly Business can afford to do because they won that team fight so handedly. With all 5 members still up and running, it just gave Kaeydan so much freedom to immediately split push the T1 tower, open up that side of the map, strip away the Gold Fury, and now all focus and attention can be put to the Portal Demon. And Obey Alliance, if they try to fight this after falling that far behind in experience and gold, they're most likely not going to have a solid chance to.
7,000 gold down already for the defending world champs, who don't need to absolutely win this game, but if they want to put their destiny into their own hands, they're going to need to start making a comeback soon. They still got a chance to make HRX, even if they get 2-0'd here against Strictly Business. They need some help from an Elevate team that has looked okay at times so far this weekend, but probably not exactly what they want. As walled off is Dwurst. Good damage onto Myflin as well. Dwurst has the ultimate, so he's probably going to be okay, but Koiz is going to get in there and find that stun onto Myflin. oBoronic up into the Taiko drums, and just to get a better vantage point of where everyone is on Obey, and also to proxy his team away from that wave.
I feel like that's almost similar to an Ares ult, where you're kind of just up there in the middle of the air.
Like, oh crap, I did this, but I didn't want to do this.
Exactly, and it's a little bit awkward at times, but it's still managing to work out. Obey, no way in hell that they try to step forward at least while those Taiko drums are active. And even though SB aren't going to be able to strip away that T1 tower, again, they have so much time in the world to look at this Portal Demon. Zachsy's still on the opposite side of the map, and Kaeydan's nearby just in case to defend the T2.
Well, Zachsy and Delta Marine were able to pick up the mid lane tier 1, and Zach still trying to push, and Kaeydan doesn't want to let him do that. Zach has no relics for about 2 seconds, but Kaeydan gonna miss the ultimate come down. Good damage onto Zachsy, who gets the Aegis up just in time. He realizes he might be on the winning end of this engagement, at least for the moment. Very little warded coverage on that left-hand side, so Zachsy instead just gonna back it up. No one else coming from Strictly Business, but get the Aegis for the Thor ult. Certainly worth it for Kaeydan, who has 20% CDR with that Jotun's Wrath. Still continuing the chase onto Zachsy. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Delta Marine has finished off a Titan's Bane, just trying to get any sort of boost of damage.
But now there's two members of Obey on the left-hand side of the map where Kaeydan was just trying to heckle Zachsy as much as possible. So strictly business, that means go. They're already trying to put out a little bit of poke onto Dwurst. They just want to pull this Portal Demon and secure it. That would be terrible for Obey.
Kaeydan looking for the flank. He's going to wall off two. Beautiful wall, gets both sets of beads, and Delta Marine walks right into the Ryan Jarman's ultimate. Petrify does good damage against the beads from Fatal Ghost, but Ryan Jarman still going to get that kill. Tycho drums over the wall. Not enough to bring down Jelly, but Dwurst forced back. Portal Demon again going to go to strictly business, and Ryan Jarman's Cabrakan has been perfect so far.
Obey just cannot get close to strictly business. That's been the storyline for game number 1, and it's happening again in game number 2. This draft by SB is just so well thought out. There is seemingly no weak point of it.
They've got a ton of CC, and CC heavy compositions are almost never, or they're almost always good. I mean, it's just hard to play against a team that has 5 different characters who can interrupt what you want to do. Zach has to be careful. No relics on that bottom left-hand side, but does have that rewind. Ryan Jarman waiting to get his ultimate back up. He's got a lot of CDR with that Breastplate of Valor, and SB is going to muscle their way into a tier 1 in the mid lane. Jelly gets marked by Fatal Ghost, but no commit onto Obey Alliance's support. Strictly business out of the kindness of their hearts. Let Jelly walk away.
They might not even be through just yet. Strictly business, the way that they're still grouped around this Portal Demon right mid-camps, I wouldn't be surprised to see if they're waiting for a member of Obey to maybe try poking their heads in for some ward vision. Fatal Ghost ticking away at the Fire Giant, just asking who's home.
Just checking it out, and honestly might have been able to be a pull opportunity for Strictly Business, but not a necessary one at this stage of the game. And Obey Alliance is a veteran team that you can't allow a window of opportunity to. Starting a Fire Giant that's a little bit risky is one of the easiest ways to give up a lead like SB has, which is about 7,000 gold at the 23-minute mark. Plenty of experience as well. And the power item starting to come for Strictly Business. I mean, Shinsai's already done for Fatal Ghost. He's working towards a Titan's Bane. Spear of Desolation done for Oboronic. Now he's got some more flat pen on top of that Spear of the Magus. So he's doing near true damage to basically everybody on Obey Alliance. Working towards a Rod of Tahuti next, I'm sure, but still hasn't started it with that Lost Artifact. Kaeydan's done with Titan's Bane. Ryan Jarman's got the Stone of Gaia. I mean, these are items that you're like, all right, we can fight, and if we can get one of these. But Strictly Business has all of those, and they're definitely willing to fight.
And I think another thing that's also limiting Obey's damage output is that Delta Marine did a little bit more of a selfish build. He went for that Titan's Bane. It's going to give him more damage, but not necessarily the team. Execution or Protection Shred is so important when you're trying to take out some of these tankier members from SB. And on top of that, Zachsy just finished Obsidian. Not sure it's going to be enough.
Oboronic has to use the Purification Beads to get away because of the flank from Zachsy, who's in a really bad spot. Now he has a Rewind to put him into a better one, but still not exactly where he'd like to be. Ryan Jarman's ultimate is already on cooldown as Kaeydan forces Delta Marine out of the fight nicely and gets his Purification Beads. Jelly, CC chained, again locked down. Tycho drums, gonna support as Fatal Ghost gonna get another one. Jelly is just there to watch as Dwurst gets doubled off by Fatal Ghost. Another quick 2 kills onto the front line for Obey, and SB right back towards the Gold Fury.
And Delta Marine maybe going to be able to get a Petrify off that could catch SB off guard. Instead, it's going to be a pretty good stun there. Myflin blinking in, but unable to find anybody, really, just having to use that Aegis. Instead, there's the setup we were looking for Delta Marine, but not quite enough damage to follow it up.
He's just too far behind. Oboronic is divine. 9-0-9 for the mid laner of Strictly Business. The backliners for Obey, they're going back to base because no way for them to contest what's going to be SB's 3rd Gold Fury of this game. It's been dominant from start to finish for one of the North American favorites.
That was a beautiful Petrify ultimate. You could not have asked for a better case scenario for Obey. And for a Delta Marine, that's just got to be such a terrible feeling to have to sit and watch that happen. Know you did everything you possibly could have in that situation, and it still didn't really make the difference.
I mean, Obey still have got the late game composition, as you mentioned. I mean, double ADC between the Chronos and the Medusa, but it's getting to the point where I'm not sure that even that is going to end up mattering for them, as Jelly just chasing down Kaeydan to pull off the bubble on the Magi's Blessing. I mean, being down nearly 10,000 gold, 9.5 or around there at 26 minutes, that's dangerous territory for sure.
poor Jelly has kind of just been a punching bag this game because, again, even though he can make the taunts that are necessary to hopefully set up Delta Marine and co, it's just hasn't been enough follow-up damage. They were relying pretty heavily on the Chulainn and the Sun Wukong to maybe establish some early leads as warriors and abuse that through the early and mid game. Instead, SB just had all the right answers.
Fire Giant getting low. It is going to go down in favor of Strictly Business. They cost him the Cabrakan ultimate in order to confirm it, but a nice dash in from oBoronic. Mez is Dwurst out of the bird form and chases out that Somersault Cloud. Obey Alliance not even close to trying to contend against that Fire Giant as Myflin has to use the ultimate just to escape the damage from Kaeydan. SB now with 5 members with Fire Giant, this tier 1 tower. It's not going to be long for this map. The tier 2 might just be the next call.
Now, the T1 tower has no chance of survival. And for SB, what they could choose to do here is swing entirely from the right T2 all the way over to the left and then push the left-hand Phoenix from Obey. But they might also just choose to spend all their gold after securing it.
They've got plenty of it, but instead it's going to be the Phoenix push here for Strictly Business. Rod of Tahuti's already done for oBoronic, so they decide better. They do want to go for the tower. Zachsy's going to be able to stick around and get that tier 1 on the left-hand side. Kaeydan backs to base in order to stop the split push from Zachsy, who wants to be able to get that tier 2. Don't believe Kaeydan is going to be able to get back in time. As a nice double taunt there. Actually gets 2 relics, the Aegis from Fatal Ghost and the beads from oBoronic, so that's a slight win for Obey Alliance, but SB might just be able to wait out that duration or at least try and be more conservative. Don't know if the tier 2 towers are exactly where Obey wants to defend, as Zachsy did end up grabbing that tier 2 on the left-hand side.
Zachsy really just trying to finish off that rod as soon as possible. Losing his purification beads, though, is going to be really important. Now he's going to have to be even more careful about when he chooses to use that rewind. A is still available as well, though, so you just can't get caught in the crowd control. But if there's one thing that's been almost impossible for Obey, it's avoiding all of the CC from SB.
There's been a lot of it, and that's exactly what was the same thing with their draft in Game 1. Lots of CC from every character, and they've done it again here in Game 2. We thought it was the Athena that was doing it all for SB, and still think it was a lot of it. But in this game, they've been able to look even better than they did in Game 1, as the T2 Phoenix defense is the call. Remember, Zachsy does not have beads, but same can be said for oBoronic. Fatal Ghost, no Aegis available. Zachsy did end up selling his starter item and the Bumba's Mask in order to finish off his Rod of Tahuti, so that's a big power spike for Obey.
That's also entirely worthwhile. He doesn't really need that starter item any longer if it means that he can finish off that Rod, because Zachsy's going to have to put in all of the damage here, I believe, if he wants to help Obey fend off their Phoenixes.
There goes the tier 2 on left. Obey decided to give that up. Myflin heading over to the left-hand side to collect that wave means that it might be difficult for them to defend this tier 2 in middle. Jelly, the only one local. Zach pretty far back, as you would expect for an ADC, even with having that rewind available. Mid tier 2 falling very, very low. Now Obey steps 2, thinking about trying to defend. Decent double tap there from Kaeydan, trying to get some cooldowns and a wall onto Dwurst. Not going to pay too many dividends. Another good stun onto Dwurst.
Oh,
and there's
no.
the ricochet. And now he's locked in underneath that Cabrakan ultimate. Somersault Cloud comes out in response to the Sunbreaker. So 2 ults for 1. Obey able to reset, but they lose that tier 2 tower. Kaeydan gets taunted in. He's going to use a purification bead, but now Delta Marine is in a world of hurt. Plenty of damage onto him. He forced to dash away as Myflin gets a 2-man knockup. Dwurst gets a race, and Boronic's looking for more. Tycho Drums looking at Zachsy. Fatal Ghost going to be able to find it. Myflin has to use the Aegis just to try and get away. Warcry as well, and the rest of SB just continues their siege now towards the middle Phoenix.
Wasn't able to find that ricochet stun, so instead Fatal Ghost going to fall back to the mid lane, but with 2 members already being dead and not a lot of ultimates remaining, this could just be it for Strictly Business.
SB trying to punch their ticket to HRX, the Titan, down to 50% HP. Good damage onto it. Ryan Jarman gonna get Jelly. Strictly Business are going to Worlds.
And that is probably the most unexpected upset that could have possibly happened. Obey, I mean, Strictly Business is going nuts right now.
They're going
and
crazy.
Rightfully so, because that was an incredibly hard-fought set, super clean from the team.
That was well played from SB. They didn't have the best of showing so far in this land, but they come up when it matters against the defending world champions. Obey had looked pretty strong coming into this set, and then they get 2-0'd up against Strictly Business. Now Obey, again, as we mentioned, not dead quite yet. They've still got a chance. They just need Elevate to win one to send them to Worlds. But you know Enix, if they weren't hungry before, not only do they get to punch their ticket to the World Championships, but they might be able to knock out the defending champs in the process.
And this could also possibly be the first European team, I believe, to even make it to Worlds if Enix is able to close out their set 2-0 versus Elevate.
Yeah, the first EU team to make it to the technical World Championships.
Yeah.
The open bracket from Season 2, there was an Aware Gaming team from the European side, but they didn't have their best showing there by any stretch. So you know that Enix not only wants to make it, but end up having a really good performance there. In order to do so, they're going to need to find the 2-0 up against Elevate. But before we get into that, we got to talk about what happened to Obey and what Strictly Business did well. Tom, take it away.
Thanks a lot there, Ryan. Now, last time we got tossed from the casters in game number 1, I said Zeus, Zeus, Zeus. This time I'm going to say Raijin, Raijin, Raijin. But really, I should be saying Oboronic. I mean, this mid laner just picking his team up and doing the dirty work.
He is a force to be reckoned with, man. His god pool now is no longer a god puddle when he first came on the scene.
Yeah.
He has a very wide god pool, and when you put him on a carry, he pops off, man.
I mean, just look at that KDA. Without a single death right now, he's been popping off. He has the front line that he really needs. The draft from Strictly Business was just on point between the control of the walls from Thor and Cabrakan. There wasn't much that Delta Marine could do as this Medusa.
Yeah, I was touching on it with you, Toli, when we were making the predictions. We were talking about the walls being a huge impact. You saw it throughout the whole game, having Cabrakan wall, Terra wall, the monolith bothering you, and then you have Thor just dunking behind people and walling you into. It was too much.
I mean, what I loved was that Raijin, sure, he's going to work off of some of the setup, but also he doesn't need it. He was doing it by himself. He was doing it with the team. And you referenced it, the God Puddle when Oboronic first came on the scene. I like the fact that you said that because it was kind of just Hebo, right? Like,
yeah.
He had like one or two gods.
Hebo Vulcan.
Yeah, and that's what's really fun to me about watching this SCL is that SPL has been going on. We're heading into Season 5 with the PC side, and we have fans that have sort of come on in Season 3, Season 4. A lot of our SCL fans and players have been here since the inception of the league. And so you get to see the journey that these guys go through. People like Matt Koiz, who have sort of, won at a bunch of lands but never really found himself going to the big show. And then people like Oboronic, who they started off with, one or two gods, and now you can give him whatever the hell he wants, and he's bringing his team the victory.
Just a lot of emotion with everybody from Strictly Business. We could just hear it here in the arena popping off, and that ending, that wow.
Yeah, just like right there.
Yeah, they went nuts, man. Congrats to them. SB is definitely a team that we regard highly. In my interview, that's one of the teams that we were looking out for on the other end because we might be facing them in the finals at hi-rez Expo.
I mean, this is the team that people say a lot of things about this team, but at the end of the day, just a lot of strong stuff. For me, the word is passion. I think that's really what it is. A lot of these guys care a heck of a lot. And right now we've got one that absolutely does. It's Matt Koiz standing next to our very own Aggro.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm joined by the support for Strictly Business, Matt Koiz. First of all, Matt, congratulations. You're going to Worlds. How does it feel?
Oh my God, it feels amazing to be back for Worlds for the third time, and I don't know, I'm just ecstatic right now. So.
Yeah, I was about to say, you're now at every World Championships for Xbox. I mean, we've already talked about it. You're one of the most winning players at LAN. What's your secret to winning here?
My secret is just I get good people around me. My team is really the only reason why I go to Worlds constantly. I'm just a support, so if I can just keep them alive and keep them doing what they're doing, I'll make it every time, so.
Were you surprised that you got your signature Athena? Because that game was absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I'm just a shark on Athena, I think, and if anyone gives it to me, it's just a free dub. She's just so good, to, so much CC, and especially on Xbox, she's really easy to play, so yeah, I just love playing her.
That set up against Obey, I mean, those are some of your former teammates across the way, Jelly, Dwurst. It's still got to feel a little bit special to beat them for this opportunity.
Yeah, I was on their team for a really long time, almost a year in Season 2, I think. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, it's always surreal beating your teammate and beating the team that kicked you. And it's just it's always good to show that you are better than the team that kicked you. And I don't know, it just feels so good. So.
Well, that kind of leads me to my next question, because we were talking before this event started, and you were saying you had some trouble finding a team coming into this split. What's this journey been like for you to go from a situation where you might not be on a team to now going to Worlds?
It's just the grind, really. I put in the hours, and I knew when I was asking teams, and they didn't really want me, so I was like, all right, let me just go back to what I used to do and just grind. And I grind every single day, and then, you know, one day an opportunity came, I took it, and, you know, now I'm here, so.
That's awesome, Matt. Congratulations. You have any shout-outs before we let you go?
Shouts out to Niquid. He's a monster. Shouts out to oBoronic, the best mid on box. And shouts out to my mom. I love you.
There it is. Matt Koiz, Strictly Business' support. He's going to Worlds, and I hope you'll join us there with it. With that, we're going to go to a quick break, as we'll be right back with some more SCL action.